Detroitlions will rise.
All right. Hey, welcome into Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is Friday. We are way late. I apologize. We had some hackers this morning. So as I'm up doing work this morning, trying to get everything ready, I get an alert at 6 a.m. that someone's trying to hack the old Will Rock. Well, I beat you, buddy. Whoever you are, I got you. So I'm in, you're out, and we're in today. Let's welcome in the boys this morning for Rise and Grind Morning Show. Eric Rintamaki and Riley O'Brien. Good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
Well, it's been an eventful morning so far. Let's see how much more eventful it can be today with Lions news and rumors. We've got new coaches. Got all sorts of stuff going on. But you know what I don't have? I don't have a sheet pulled up. And I don't think I sent you guys a sheet, did I?
No, you didn't.
Yeah, all that going on, and I didn't even send the sheet. So let me do this real quick. I'll get you guys the sheet, and we'll get rolling.
All right.
So while I'm doing this, I mean, Eric, just take it away for a moment. Whatever you want to talk about, go for it.
So we had a little bit of gremlins this morning. That's all right. That's part of what it is. You know, we're not ESPN. We're not Fox yet, but we're working on our way to get there. And yeah, it is what it is. Kind of cold up here, though. Holy crap. Single digits for highs for the next 3 or 4 days. We did get a little bit of snow, enough that the plow guy came this morning. But nice and cold out here. So cold in my studio that the aluminum casing on the front of my Roadcaster likes to bend and retract. And when it does, it likes to push buttons on there and make noise.
Let's hope that you don't have any inappropriate sound bites loaded up.
No. I'm good there.
What about you, Riley? What's happening in Utah? Got to be on. There you go. You got to be unmuted, buddy.
He must be unmuted.
You're definitely not unmuted on our side.
Uh-oh. They got gremlins out in Utah, too.
Yeah, no, you're all clear on my side. I mean, you were clear a minute ago, so I don't know what you got going on, but that's not good. Oh, this is just going to be a fun Friday. I can see it already. I'm really trying to wear my emotions right now. Like I'm really trying to keep it in.
Yep.
It's not fun when this shit happens.
No, not at all.
But anyway, I had a good conversation with somebody this morning talking about Brad Holmes. I don't know. I'm up at like 4:30 in the morning. I get random text messages from audience members at 5:30 in the morning. We just start chatting away, and I'm going to utilize that message today as part of the mailbag. I'm not going to name names, but I thought it was a good conversation. I get it. I mean, I know why people want Brad Holmes to do certain things, but if we honestly feel that Brad Holmes is going to do anything with Myles Garrett or anything with Max Crosby or anybody else, you guys might as well pack in your season now because you're going to be disappointed. And I actually listened to Jeff Risdon and what's his buddy's name? Chris. I listened to them a little bit this morning. When I'm in the shower, I turn something on so I can listen. I'm always staying active, right?
Yep.
And I heard them say the same thing. It's not happening. It's not the MO of Brad Holmes.
Yeah. And, Risdon, I follow him on X and Facebook and everything else. And there's some people that, get after him. And I'm like, wow, this dude's got the pulse of the team. He knows what he's saying. So I've liked everything I've read and seen and talked to him, and he's been very approachable, especially on social media. He answers my questions, tells me, anything I ask, he always sends me back a reply. So I like guys like that.
Maybe we should reach out to him and see if he wants to come on and have a conversation. I know he's got a busy life, but we'll see if he wants to come on throughout the season here and have some conversations. Hopefully Riley will be back soon. I'm not sure if he's back in the room yet or not, but I'm going to roll to a different screen for right now. And then you guys should have had the email sent to you with today's list.
Yeah,
today's topics. Let me tell you what we got going on today. As far as topics, it's packed. I doubt we're going to get to all of it now because we're a half hour late. But Dane Brugler has a little bit to say about this draft class. We're going to talk about that. Field Yates talking about running backs in this draft. Jaden Daniels, a little bit of coverage here from Riley on Jaden Daniels. Franchise tag candidates. 5 teams poised to make a major fall. Are the Detroitlions mentioned? We'll find out. And then, of course, we've got the Riley Road Report as soon as he gets his audio back. We've got a big segment today on the Riley Road Report. Detroit Lions news, free agent profile, none other than Kindle Vildor. Is he going to be coming back here in 2025? I think a lot of you will be surprised to find out that he just might be. Amik Robertson makes a bold move and a bold statement. And then multiple Lion stars are among betting favorites. So we're going to get into a lot of different news notes, but we're going to get an ad in real quick while Riley's coming back. We'll see you back here in 30 seconds.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering YOOPERLITES, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from YOOPERLITES.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for YOOPERLITES with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit YOOPERLITES.com for all your UV flashlight needs with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from YOOPERLITES.com.
Okay, so Eric and I are going to kick it off while Riley's doing whatever he's doing. I thought I fixed all the gremlins this morning and booted out the hackers, but we're going to keep rolling. So the hat, it's up for sale on Buy Me a Coffee. We already had a sale this morning. I mean, it wasn't even up for few hours and we've got people that are buying it already. So get yours. They're $40. Obviously, all the profits are going to go to Rock Down Cancer Foundation. But it's $40. It will include a $15 exchange guarantee. So if something happens with your hat, in transit, I'll be more than happy to get it replaced, but I have to have it back to me. The way that I have it set up, I have to have it back to me within 20 days of purchase so that I can get it back to the people that are making it. And otherwise, we eat it. So it'll include at least a little bit of a warranty or guarantee. You'll love the hat. It fits good. I have a hard head, I guess. Well, I have a hard head, but also to wear hats. And this one fits me the best. So I like it. Eric, let's get it kicked off, man. What do you want to start with here on NFL news?
Let's go. 5 teams that are poised to possibly take a fall here in 2025. I'm getting down to it here real quick. So the NFL had its fair share of surprises in 2024, starting with the Minnesota Vikings winning 14 games when they were only predicted to win 6 or 7. And the Washington Commanders also making the conference championship game for the first time since 1991. The league also had some disappointments, starting with Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets plummeting to 5 wins, and the San Francisco 49ers going from conference champions to only 6 wins. Which teams appear due for a free fall in 2025? These are the teams that overachieved last year or were on the verge of collapse based on how the season ended. The 2025 schedule of opponents is also a determining factor on how the teams will perform in 2025. With free agency in the draft not even close to happening yet, let's take a look at the top 5 teams we have poised to take a fall in 2025. And up first, your Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings were the biggest surprise in the NFL last year, according to a lot of people. Not according to Will, not according to me. We thought they were going to be halfway decent. Now, I did not think they were going to get 14 wins, but we thought they were going to be up there with the Detroit Lions trying to get a wild, or yeah, well, I thought maybe they'd get a wild card spot somewhere in that kind of range, 8-9 wins at least. And they got 14. Minnesota needs to figure out the quarterback situation, as Sam Darnold is a free agent and JJ McCarthy is waiting in the wings as the team's first round pick from a season ago. If the Vikings go with McCarthy, it's hard to fathom he'll be able to help his team win 14 games in year one as a starter coming off of an MCL surgery. There's talent on this Minnesota team, but the NFC North has strong teams in it, and the conference has too many teams that can win double-digit games. This is the team poised for a drop-off, even if it's a slight one. All right, now our next one.
Hold on a second here, Eric. Let's hit the main segment on each one of these teams real quick. So it sounds like, the biggest surprise was Minnesota Vikings at 14-3. I mean, everybody knew that. I thought that Darnold was going to have a good season. He was matched up with some really good players on that offense and clearly had his best season ever as a quarterback. But I don't think it's so much about him just landing with the Vikings and that turned him around. I think his career I guess that is the case, but his career was, I think it was spelled out by the teams he was with previously. Like he was never in a good situation. He never had a good offense. He didn't really have great coaching, and he had all of that in Minnesota. So for the Minnesota Vikings to have a fall off here in 2025, I guess I would have to examine a little bit more. What is their free agency looking like? Are they going to jettison a lot of players? Number one. Number two, if they do move on from Darnold, yeah, they're going to have some rookie headaches with JJ McCarthy. I feel it. I see it, based on what I've watched of JJ McCarthy. He's going to have some rookie headaches. Vikings, yeah, if they have more than 9 wins with JJ McCarthy at quarterback, I would be surprised. Who's next year?
And also Minnesota only has 3 draft picks this year, so they're not going to be reloading with youth this year. Up next is the Washington Commanders, and I thought this was the biggest surprise of the year. Seriously, I really didn't see this one coming. Year one under Jaden Daniels was better than anything the Commanders anticipated. Washington won 12 games in Daniels' first season, including the only team to beat the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles since October began. And the Commanders are a conference title contender and have a franchise quarterback in Daniels, but it will be hard to replicate last season's success. They have to play the Eagles twice and have the Detroit Lions on the schedule, while playing 5 teams that won double-digit games on their road slate. If Daniels plays well, it's hard to win 12 games and go to the conference championship game. The Commanders may have a better roster in 2025 and have $75.2 million in cap space to make it better, but still may not replicate what they accomplished this season. And if you look at teams like the Texans, they had CJ Stroud, and he had this amazing rookie season. And then the next season he came out this year and was compared to the year before. So there was kind of a sophomore slump for CJ Stroud, and CJ Stroud came and took the NFL world over in year one. It's kind of the same thing that Daniels did.
Yeah. So with the Commanders here, I don't necessarily see a drop off in play from Jaden Daniels, but what I do see is the issue with, now we have tape, right? And they had tape on Daniels already, especially the Lions, because you're in the divisional round. What are you going to do in year 2? And that's the thing about Stroud, right? They had tape on Stroud. They had tape on the offense. They had a good idea of what they were going to do, in 2025 based on what they learned in 2024 based on what they learned in 2023. Jaden Daniels is going to be up against the same thing. And matter of fact, the Eagles tape is going to be the best tape to watch, because that is exactly how you need to stymie, the RPO offense. So Washington Commanders falling back from 12-5, I do think that is a reality. I don't think that they're going to be out of the playoffs, though. I think that the Commanders are now in it to win it. So unless they suffer a rash of injuries, I still think the Commanders are in it to win it. So Pittsburgh Steelers up next. Let me roll through this one real quick. So every year the Steelers seem to make this list, right? They've always been in the playoffs, but they never really seem to win anything else. And the fact that the Steelers were the first 10-win team in NFL history to end the season on a losing streak of 5+ games, that's pretty incredible. I mean, how do you play that well in the beginning, and then you completely crap the bed the last 5 games of the regular season and still make it into the postseason? Look, Tomlin's an excellent coach. He gets these guys to play, but averaging 14.2 points per game and allowing 24.7 over the last 5 games is exactly what you can't do. Now, they obviously went with a two-pronged quarterback approach in the beginning. I don't think it worked out as well as they had hoped. We'll see what they're going to do this season with a new quarterback, whether it's Russell Wilson or Justin Fields that they keep. In my opinion, I think that you would be better off trying to trade Russell Wilson. I don't know his full contract details. I thought it was only a 1-year deal. So if he's a free agent, which I think he is, I think he's probably going to end up out in LA or somewhere else. I think he'll probably be a Raider, to be honest with you. They don't really have a consistent answer at quarterback, so that's something that they're going to have to fix. I don't call the Steelers a fall-off team. I just think they're a team that has everything to prove in 2025. They don't really have anything to lose because, I mean, they're always here. They're always a 500 or better team, it seems like, every year. And I would say that that's not really a fall off. I think that that's just consistency. But I don't have the Steelers in the playoffs this season. I don't. I think that this is the last year for Tomlin. Broncos is up next. Eric, what do you got?
Yeah, so the Denver Broncos, this is one that I don't really agree with. The Broncos deserve all the credit in the world for winning 10 games and making the playoffs with a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. The last season slide never happened as Denver held off a late Cincinnati Charge to make the playoffs, shaping an 8-season playoff drought. Nix protected the football throughout the year while showing the big play capability with his arm, especially late in the year. So why would Denver take a dive in 2025? Even if it's a small one, replicating the number 1 pass rush from last season will be very difficult, especially from a team that finished with 63 sacks and 5 players who had 5+ sacks last season. The Broncos need more production from their running backs and better blocking up front to take the pressure off of Bo Nix. This is one where I see them actually doing better next year, not falling off. If it was my opinion on them, I thought they did pretty good, and I thought they came on well late in the season. So if they can keep, 3/4 of that defensive production and get better on the offense, give Bo Nix that first round running back, and you're good to go.
So as far as the Broncos go, yeah, this is a Sean Payton team that I think that we expected was going to end up being a good team at some point. And, why would they take a dive in 25? I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I agree with you that I think that this is a team that's going to get better in with Bo Nix, especially in his second season. Now, usually you have a sophomore slump for rookie quarterbacks. Something tells me Nix is just going to get better. He might end up being the second best quarterback out of the draft in 2024. I definitely think that he can be better than what Caleb Williams will ever be. I think that Caleb has some, unique abilities in that, but I just don't see him being consistent. Whereas Bo Nix seemed to be very consistent in the way that he played the game of football. So I don't expect the Broncos to slide. If anything, I think the Broncos will be right where they are, if not one game better at 11-6. Indianapolis Colts is the last team, Eric. Is that number 5?
Yep. So they're number 5. The Colts are in a state of flux right now as head coach Shane Steichen is coaching for his job next year. Indianapolis decided to bench Anthony Richardson in his second season, not getting the answer the franchise was seeking from 40-year-old Joe Flacco. Richardson was the most inaccurate quarterback in the league last season and didn't appear to improve his passing upon returning from his benching. Now, if they're starting Anthony Richardson next year, this team is going nowhere. It seems like every team figured him out really fast. When I went and watched him play down in Indianapolis against the Lions, went to that game, and it seemed every time that the Lions got pressure on him, that he just threw the ball away to the broadside of a barn. He couldn't hit any receiver. And he was so lucky that he didn't have 3, 4, 5 interceptions in that game because he just threw the ball up. He wasn't throwing it to any particular person. And it was just spray and pray, as some people would say. Yeah, man, I'm all rhymey today. But yeah, the Colts, I do think that the Colts might have a fall off next year, especially if they don't do something at quarterback. I think that's their biggest issue.
Well, for me, I think that, they were a defense that was expected to be really good. Matter of fact, I had the Colts as being a really good team in 2024. They were on the cusp. I mean, you can't finish 500 in the NFL anymore just because there's 17 games on the season. I would have at least had them as a 500 or better team. They have the makings of a really good defense. I think that they made a really good change here at defensive coordinator by firing Gus Bradley, because clearly he was not able to get, everything out of those players. And Anarumo is known. Like, that is a perfect addition to the Colts defense. And I think the defense is what's going to make the difference. Anthony Richardson, he's kind of hit or miss. I almost feel like he's a fragile porcelain doll at times too. As big as he is, you would think that he wouldn't get injured, but every time it seems like he runs the football, he's getting banged up, and he just can't keep running the football the way that he is. And the Colts need to recognize that. They need to recognize that, every time we put this guy in a position to run the football, he's getting injured. And I mean, how many more times are you going to let him get injured? Stop running the ball. Start throwing the ball. Start, handing the ball off to your running backs and run the ball that way. So if they fix those two things, defense, and fix Richardson's, injury-prone issues, I think they'll be back in the hunt here in 2025. I'm going to put them as a team on the rise. I'm not going to put them on a team, as a team that's going to fall back. I think the Colts are going to be at least one game better and probably limp into the playoffs here in 2025. So good segment to open it up. Glad the Lions weren't mentioned, but should they be, Eric?
Possibly. I do believe that the Lions will three-peat as NFC North champions, but I do not think we get 15 wins. If that makes sense. I'm going to say somewhere in the 12 to 14 range.
Interesting. I have us at 14-3 again for the third season in a row. Well, that's second season in a row. Sorry, I had us at 12-5 the first season. And we hit 12-5. So hold on here. I just got a message on my.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this year for me, I'm not going to make my mind up until we get closer to the season. Exactly how many wins we get. I'm going to say somewhere in the 12 to 14 range for now. Have to see what we pick up in free agency, see what the draft brings us, and what happens this summer in training camp. Got to see it all. But I do predict a 3 in a row, winning the NFC North, hosting a playoff game 3 years in a row.
I'm right there with you. I think that there's no reason why, we can't. There's no reason why we can't. We have all of the makings of being able to do this. I need to test something real quick because I don't have anything really ready to go for breaking news. But let me just see if this thing's ready to go or not. I don't remember if I set it up. Like I thought, it is not ready. So we'll do the breaking news from right here. Detroit Lions just announced that Notre Dame is hiring the Detroit Lions' Mike Martin as their general manager. Now, this is conflicting with compensatory picks, and I'm going to be clear on this in just a second. But Notre Dame has finalized a deal to hire Detroit Lions Director of Scouting Advancement Mike Martin as the school's new GM. This source told ESPN Adam Schefter, who just reported it moments ago on Twitter. Martin was part of Detroit's initial front office staff that helped rebuild this Lions roster. And Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman is pulling Martin away from Detroit to bring in an NFL model to South Bend. Martin is going to replace Chad Bowden, who left to become USC's GM last month. So, interesting news. What I will say is this. When you advance in the NFL to another NFL team, well, we would have received a compensatory pick. But because he's going to the college ranks, we're not going to receive a couple of compensatory picks for this move, which, hey, it is what it is. And congratulations to Mr. Martin here on his advancement in his career. This is a big loss, huge loss for the Detroit Lions. I mean, what a bit of timing, too, right? Right before the draft. Big loss for the Detroit Lions. This is, the 10th guy now that has moved on this season. Not happy about us losing everybody, but you know what? This just opens up the door for new, better, different opportunities for Lions coaching staff here in the future. So, Eric, let me get your quick thoughts on, us losing yet again another piece of our developing crew,
Yeah, that's going to hurt. And the Detroit Lions, they are not done yet. Now, yesterday they came out. I got an X or a Twitter from Jeremy Reisman. The Lions' new coaching staff has filled every player position on their coaching staff so far. So now we have OC is Morton, the DC is Shepard, the QB coach is Mark Brunell, the running back is Choice, tight ends is Roll, wide receiver assistant head coach is Scotty Montgomery. The O-line and passing game coordinator is Hank Fraley. The DL is Rogers. Linebackers is Deion Hamilton, and DBs are now Townsend. And they are likely still some assistants to be announced at a later date. And so now we're going to have to get somebody from the front office staff as well.
Yeah, I think what Notre Dame is trying to do here. Obviously, what they said in the statement is that they're trying to bring in an NFL style, more of a pro style to their scouting department. That's also going to help them and their players when they move on to the next level, as they will have more connections now inside the office there, inside of Notre Dame, to be able to make those connections for the next step up for these players. So anyway, congratulations to Mr. Martin. Hate to see you leave, man. I really do. I hate to see these good guys go. Brad has really had an incredible team around him that he built, and that he's fostered. I have no reason to believe that he won't continue to build and replenish the funnel as it gets depleted. So I'm going to go ahead and do one of Riley's topics here. I have no idea if he's going to be making it back or not. But at least let's talk about something that I've already been saying this season. And as soon as this thing wants to open up, Dane Brugler, I guess this is a Twitter post, says that this class in 2025 is loaded for defensive tackles. I think personally that this class is loaded for the entire front seven. Linebackers, defensive tackles, and defensive edge, whether it's a 3-4 or a 4-3 or a hybrid system. I feel that this draft is going to give Brad Holmes nightmares at night, because he's not going to know who to pick. And he'll know eventually. He'll make the right choice. But even for me, going through all these mock drafts and getting ready to launch my mock draft this weekend, I'm struggling. And I'm struggling because I don't have the combine results. That's what changes everything for me. Not that I rely on the combine a lot. I already have all the measurements built for everybody that I know so far, and I won't get the rest of it till the combine. So that's the tough part for me. If I don't have arm length, and this is something that I've been talking about my entire career on YouTube, and my entire career as a Lions fan for forever. when I used to, coach football, I always put the kids with the longest arms on the edge, always. And I always put the kids with the longest arms on the offensive line, because there's one way, if you can't do anything else, if you don't have the body type, the size, the speed, there's one thing you can always do, and that's just use a long arm, right? You keep that long arm out and you keep guys away from you. And you keep, switching arms and you're pushing them as you're moving back, and you keep them away from you so they can't get a move on you and get around you. On the other side of the football, on the defensive side of the football, that long arm, again, it will keep you away from the tackle, and then you can do your move and get around them or underneath them or whatever you need to do. So long arms is what I'm waiting for. And there is a few players in this draft that definitely have some long arms. So I'm changing my tune. I think that this is where I'm going to settle in on the draft this year. This last week, Eric, I said that, maybe Brad Holmes is going to move up, right? Maybe he'll move up in this draft. Yep. And the more I keep looking at, and I was only saying that because of the Myles Garrett stuff, right? I put that out there because I said, if you're going to trade away all these picks to get Myles Garrett or anybody else, which I don't believe is going to happen, why wouldn't you just do the same thing and move way up into this draft a few times and get the players that can make a difference year one? Whether that's a Carter or anybody else that you feel is a top-tier talent. Now I think it's going to be the other way. I think that Brad Holmes is going to stay right where he is, and if he does move, he'll move a little bit as far as going north, right? I think he's going to move back into the second round. The meat of this draft, the more and more I'm grading these guys and watching tape, I think that it is really heavy for defensive linemen between our pick and the top 40, maybe even to the top 45. So the problem that we have is we don't have any picks between 28 and 45 or 29 and 45, right? We pick at 20, and then I think we bounce down to 60, I think is our next pick.
Yeah.
That's a problem. At 60, it's going to be depleted. You're still going to be able to find some good guys, like maybe Walker, who I think is going to have a meteoric rise after the combine. I think he's going to shred the combine. I think he's going to be, one of those guys that I've watched. He's mocked into the late third round, early fourth round. He's probably going to sneak into the early parts of the second round, if not the back end of the first round. So Brad Holmes is going to have a good pick of the litter if he can move around. So for me, I think Brad Holmes is going to want to trade some future draft capital and add a second round pick. We're going to have that third compensatory pick. You could leave it as is, but I would package up a little bit, and I would try to get at least one pick between 28 and 45. If he can manage that, not only will we be able to grab an offensive lineman at 60, but we could grab 3 defensive players at 28, 40, and 60, and our draft is set with just those 3 guys. Like, those 3 players is all we really need to add to this team, and then add, somebody in free agency to help round out, the needs, because Brad, he only adds needs in free agency. He doesn't do it in the draft. So that's where I think it is. I think the meat of this draft for us is going to be between 28 and 45, again, for the second time this year. And I was spot on with that in 2023's draft, where I ranked and evaluated a lot of different guys, but I picked all 5 of the Detroit Lions' first 5 picks. And it was all between pretty much, 15 and 45 where I saw the meat of that draft. And it was, if you go back and look at the players that were taken primarily in the second round, a lot of them turned out to be gems, just absolute ball players. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. What are your thoughts on loaded class, or have you even had an opportunity really to look at a lot of things yet?
Well, last night I actually started watching some videos on like the top prospects for defensive tackles and edges. And all I can say is I can't wait until I can get my butt down to the combine again. Hopefully I can go this year. And I need to get eyes on these people, because I don't watch college football. And that might be a downfall for me, that I don't watch college football. But when I do get to see these guys, especially in person, I'm brand new, fresh eyes. I'm only seeing what's in front of me. I'm not seeing anything they've done in the past. So they all have a clean slate with me when it comes to evaluating these guys and looking at them in person for the first time. I did see a thing yesterday that they said they sent out all of the invitations for the combine, and Shiloh Sanders did not get an invitation, and they're talking about him being a very late round or free agent, undrafted free agent. So I don't know what to think of these guys, and I kind of want to keep my mind open for a lot of these defensive tackles and edges, because I like to make my own opinions of them and not just take others' opinions. But I
Right.
did watch a little bit of tape where somebody put together like the top 5 and watching, like some highlights. But then when you see highlights, you're not seeing the plays they took off. Like, so if there's a comment in the comment section that says, oh, you're showing all his good plays, but you're not showing the plays where he took the play off, and he doesn't have effort on every single play. So we don't get to see that, right? And when you're watching these guys live at the combine, you get to see whether they're taking some time off or if they're putting everything they have into everything at the combine.
Yeah, so I would think that they're putting everything into it at the combine. I don't think really anyone takes I don't think they take a backseat approach to it at the combine because it's not live play, but I will say you do see what they're able to do by giving the effort that they give, and it gives you the raw numbers, right? It gives you the real and the raw numbers. And then I take that and then I go rewatch some tape. If I can share something with you, I'll figure out how to share it with you, but I have raw tape. So I have scout tape now, and I paid dearly for it, but in a way, but thankfully I got some tape. It's not going to be on every single prospect, but it does give me all of it, right? It's not just highlights on YouTube where you do see, like you said, Eric, you get to see just all the good plays.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is just go watch the game, rewatch the game, but not everybody has time to go sit through a 3-hour game. And if you can get the condensed version, where it's only 60 minutes and it's all of the plays and nothing else, I mean, that's even better. I mean, that's what NFL Pro does, or, NFL Network, when you can watch the condensed version of the NFL games. Very similar stuff available for college tape. But the tape that I have, it's very similar, exactly like what NFL scout tape is. It's drilled down to tell me what route they're running, where they're lined up, who they're up against, and the route that they've ran. I mean, everything. If I'm watching an offensive player, it gives me all the information, and then I can key in on watching it. So it just takes a little bit more time to go through that stuff than just watching highlights, obviously.
Yeah.
But watching the games is the best way, because then you can see, like you said, are they taking time off? Are they taking a play off? Are they exhausted? Are they gassed?
And remember last year when we were at the combine, we're sitting together and we were watching the defensive tackles, and Brandon Fisk comes up and runs his 40. And it was awesome. He what did he scream? He screamed something before he went across the finish line, and it kind of made our ears perk up. So then every drill after that, we were watching him, So my thing is, they can make an impression on you, even just running their 40. And then when they go through the other drills, now, they do their first drill and he does really, really well. Now you're like, oh man, I want to see what he does in this other drill. I never heard of this guy, and I had never heard of Brandon Fisk before that day. And man, have him and Verse turned into one absolute powerhouse out there for the LA Rams.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, so let me give a old crack at the Riley Road Report. So I obviously didn't prep this. This is all Riley's work, but we got to get it in today. These segments have to fly on Wednesdays and Fridays, because we're going to start building segments and videos around it, so that if you don't want to watch the long form content, you'll at least be able to have the short form content. So I'm going to give it a good whack here. And matter of fact, I've got to get something set up. And while I'm doing that, Eric, go ahead and give us another, 2-minute or less NFL news, and then I'll get this rolling.
All right, let me look and see what I got for today for NFL news. Okay. 4 teams who could trade for Kyler Murray. Why would you want to trade for Kyler Murray, right? Well, the Arizona Cardinals are at a true crossroads with Kyler Murray, more so than they have been during any other offseason. The former number 1 overall pick is heading into year 7, but he may have overstayed his welcome with fans, and sooner rather than later, the front office who didn't draft him could be ready to move on. Let's take a look at the 4 teams who may trade for him in the offseason. If my keyboard would work. There we go. All right, so there's 4 teams that might just take a look at Kyler Murray, even though he's 5'7". The New York Jets. They need a quarterback. The Jets will do anything but draft a young quarterback who can work. Instead, they swing and miss on their evaluations and then bring in veterans and try to mask the void under center. Well, now they have Aaron Glenn, and I think Aaron Glenn's going to bring in someone, whether they're a bridge quarterback or not. I think he learned his lesson with Jared Goff coming over from LA, and they might actually have a chance at going after Kyler Murray. Then there's the team, the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns have needed a quarterback longer than I've been alive, aka 30 years, says the writer. That going back to even before the original Browns team relocated to Baltimore. Put simply, they have not had a good and consistent play quarterback in forever, and they haven't. So that would be another good team for him to go to. Now, next, the LA Raiders. Wow. Do you really think that Tom Brady would bring in Kyler Murray? I don't know if he would or not. But the Raiders are proof that bad teams stay bad when you are consistently blowing everything up. Few teams need a quarterback as badly as Las Vegas does, which could lead them to do whatever it takes to move up and grab one of Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders in the upcoming draft. Or they could go the veteran route and go with Kyler Murray. And then number 4, the final team, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That actually makes sense.
And dance for the Steelers. They make the playoffs almost every season, and then they get bounced early. Since Ben Roethlisberger left, Pittsburgh has been inconsistent to terrible quarterback play, and not for lack of trying different options. And that is one thing they do every year, is they try to bring in another quarterback to see if they can get it figured out. So wouldn't Kyler Murray be the perfect fit for Tomlin?
So,
Yeah,
I mean, that one actually kind of makes a little bit of sense. But let me walk back here for a second. Is he even a free agent? He's not a free agent. He just signed a new contract.
They would have to try. They would have to trade for him.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know about all that. I don't think Murray's going anywhere. I don't think that makes really a whole lot of sense for them, for the Cardinals at this point. I mean, they just brought in a receiver for him last year. They just need to repair that O-line a little bit, go heavy O-line in this draft, and they're going to be just fine. I think the Cardinals are closer to competing than they're not. And last year, I thought the Cardinals were going to have a really nice bounce back season. They didn't. I'm going to go ahead and double down. I think the Cardinals are going to have a good season this year. They'll be in the playoffs for sure. So, all right, up next, we're going to do the Riley Road Report. But before we get there, let's get in another quick ad, and then we'll be right back. Is here, and you want the latest news and rumors on your Detroit Lions. Head to sportspider.com. That's sports, SPYDER.com, where you can get your Lions news and all your sports in one place. Man, this site is packed with your favorite podcasts, live news, articles from local writers, and insiders, all updating in real time. Not just the Lions, every major sports team, including MMA, UFC, and so much more. Don't want to waste time searching? Sign up for free. Create your ultimate sports news hub. You control what hits your feed at SportsSpider, your number one source for all your sports. Visit sportspider.com today, right after the show. All right, so we've got the Riley Road Report today coming from Las Vegas. I'm filling in for Riley. My name is Will Rock. We'll be getting it done and over with here in about 12 minutes. So Denver Broncos, we're going to be heading out to, let's see, what are we doing today? What is it? Is this AFC West today? I think it is. So Denver Broncos select Ashton Jeanty in another mock draft. This one was promoted by Rick Kurtzman here on Mile High Sports, saying that, the Lions didn't get it wrong, right? By selecting Jahmyr Gibbs at number 12, everybody thought that the Detroit Lions made some big mistakes. Obviously, they didn't. They didn't make a big mistake. And so what I think this article is trying to tell us here is that selecting a running back early in the draft is not a mistake. So Jeanty is unquestionably the best running back in this year's draft. Maybe, maybe not. 2,601 yards this past season was the second most ever for a single season in college football history. Jeanty, came at a mere 27 yards short of Hall of Fame running back Barry Sanders, the 1988 season that he obviously set ablaze. So what do you think? I mean, Eric, do you think that taking a running back this early in the draft is a mistake? Or do you feel that, hey, a guy that's been real close to Barry Sanders' career record year, that maybe it is wise to take a running back early in the draft, especially if your team needs one?
The Denver Broncos. And listen, Brad Holmes has changed the way people think about running backs. And I also think that Saquon Barkley has changed the way that GMs look at running back and the running back position. Listen, you have to have a dog. You have to have that guy. You have to have a top end running back to get the defense to be honest and to have them line up to go against the run. And in the Super Bowl, if you saw Saquon, he didn't get 200 yards. He didn't break any records. He had like 60 yards. But what he did was he made the defense play the run on every single play. They did everything they could to stop the run, and then they couldn't stop the pass. They couldn't stop the quarterback leaking out of the backfield.
Yeah, obviously having a running back like hold on, my phone is recording everything that I'm saying. Obviously having a running back like Saquon Barkley makes all of the difference. And even Mel Kiper, Field Yates, and others, Ryan Crystal of Sharp Football Analysis, have mocked the Denver Broncos selecting Ashton Jeanty. Look, McChrystal points out that 23.2% of the Broncos' sets of downs led to a third and long situation, which ranked them 24th. And Denver fans know the weakest point of the offense this year was the running game and consistency, as well as big plays. So selecting a running back, I mean, it almost makes too much sense. And excuse me, we are in the AFC West today. I think I said NFC West earlier. I don't know why. But anyway, we'll move forward here to the second bit of news here, which is free agency news for the Broncos. Coming from Broncos Wire, this is John Heath talking about Broncos dubbed an ideal landing spot for none other than Rico Dowdle. So doubling down on running backs here, they pick one up in the draft. Do they also bring one in as a veteran free agent? Javonte Williams obviously is scheduled to become a free agent this season in March. And obviously the Broncos, they're not expected to re-sign him, at least at this point, making a running back obviously a key position for the Broncos, not only in free agency, but also heading into the draft. Now, one of the team's options in free agency could be Dallas Cowboys' Rico Dowdle, who had a breakout season in 24. Christopher Knox of Bleacher Report recently published his list of ideal landing spots for some of the top NFL free agent running backs, and obviously put Dowdle linked to Denver. So any thoughts? I mean, kind of what you were saying just a minute ago, Eric, any thoughts on Dowdle becoming a Bronco?
Dowdle did great for the Cowboys last season. Why wouldn't he be a fit? Just depends on what they need to do with their funds for the season, what they have in cap space, and whether they want to go cheap with a rookie.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the chat here, John Desage, am I going to have a draft show? I have a draft show every year. Give away a couple $1,000s worth of jerseys and other things every single draft, but it won't be Dowdle's jersey that I'm giving away. But Dowdle has a market value of $6.2 million on a 1-year deal. Hey, that might be a cheap price to pay for a veteran, but I think that the Broncos are going to need to double down here. They're going to have to grab somebody in the draft as well. It only makes sense. You know, I talk about roster roulette often, and that is exactly that. You know, you put one in the hopper, and when your main back or your main wide receiver or whomever is on the move, you've got another guy to take that spot over when and if needed. So next, we're going to move on to L.A. We're going to head over to the Chargers here. Now, Gavino Borquez of Chargers Wire, he feels and sees that Michigan tight end Colston Loveland is a realistic draft target for the Chargers. Now, Loveland has natural athleticism and overall receiving ability, with his best football ahead of him, as he was hampered by below average quarterback play this past season. The Chargers could utilize the versatility, obviously, to line up anywhere on the field. And Harbaugh obviously would love his willingness to block in the run game with high effort and intensity. Now, the one thing that I will say here is mocks often get lost in the shuffle when maybe this guy's a U of M fan. I don't know. But it seems like you're mocking a U of M guy to a former U of M coach just because. And that doesn't work out. Like, hardly ever does that really ever happen. Yeah, he might have been the coach there when this guy was there, but that doesn't mean that he's going to want him on his team in the pros. But this guy does have realistic ability at the NFL level. He's 6'5", he's 245 pounds. He's a big body, big wingspan. Played all 3 seasons for Michigan. And his best season was actually his second season in 2023 when they won the championship. He had 15 games played, 45 receptions, 649 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So he was not a huge receiving threat as far as touchdowns were considered or scoring options. But obviously he did help this team win. The elevator pitch for Loveland is this. He has natural athleticism, like I said earlier, and overall receiving ability. His strengths, speed, burst, fluidity, to make it tough for linebackers to stick with him. He's a very savvy route runner, and movement skills, obviously, to set up routes and create separation at the top of his break. So, interesting prospect, absolutely. I'm not sure that he makes it to the Chargers, though, just because of the U of M connection. Sticking with the Chargers here, free agency news, same guy, Gavin Borquez, has suggested that DeAndre Hopkins, the guy that couldn't seem to get it right in the Super Bowl, might be predicted to sign with the Chargers. Interesting. I'm not sure that I would agree with this one, but the Chargers obviously need something. And possibly Hopkins gives them an answer where they're missing, an option at wide receiver. So contenders obviously should still, kick the tires on Hopkins despite his struggles this past season. At this point in his career, Hopkins might need more of a you only live once passer than Mahomes is, and someone who wants to throw outside the numbers more often. Justin Herbert looks like that fit. So Hopkins to the Chargers. You in or out on this one? And anything you'd like to add to this bit of Chargers news?
The Chargers news. I just looked on the Loveland thing. Last year, Jim Harbaugh drafted 2 of the 18 Michigan products that came through the draft last year. So he wasn't going all Michigan in everything that he took. And Hopkins, he'd be a good fit for the Chargers. I think he'd do just fine with them.
So, while he's not playing at an all-pro level, I mean, obviously Hopkins still has pretty decent hands. And that was one thing in the Super Bowl, that big drop didn't make any sense for him. It just seemed like everything was off, for the Chiefs. But he would provide, the offense with a proven veteran on the outside, somebody to help, teach some of the younger pups how to do it at a high level. So he would be a solid fallback option. I'm just not sure that the contract is going to make sense here for the Chargers. But hey, we'll find out soon enough. Probably at the same point, everybody else will find out. How about those Raiders? So Raiders draft news here. Tashawn Reed. Tashawn Reed of the New York Times has, oh no, I got to sign in again. He has said that if the Raiders are unable to trade up for Shedeur Sanders, which it sounds like is a potential top 5 pick in this draft, then they could opt to select Georgia safety Malachi Starks in the round 1, pick number 12 overall, and then look to select their potential quarterback of the future in round 3 in former Ohio State quarterback Will Howard, which could be a smart move if Carroll likes what he sees in Howard. I will say this, though. There's going to be some quarterbacks late in this draft. I think that there's going to be a slew of quarterbacks probably in that late second to early third round. All of the mocks that I've done so far, not that they're going to be correct, because these mocks that we do on any calculator typically don't match up to what's going on in the draft. I mean, it gives you kind of an idea, but not really. I don't really believe in the mock draft. I mean, that's why nobody ever really gets them right. I've gotten a few right, but when you look around the league and Mel Kiper, Brew, I don't care who it is, Jeremiah, any of them, go back and look at their mock drafts after the draft. They are so far wrong, it's not even funny. They might get the top 5 or 10 right, or a lot of them right. Who doesn't? I mean, those are pretty easy picks usually to figure out. Now, the Raiders are obviously oozing with positivity right now. The hiring of Pete Carroll and GM John Spidek last month, they both know the roster needs a lot of work, and they have a ton of cap, and they have a ton of draft capital here in 2025. They'll have no real shortages for resources to put toward that, this offseason. I think the 2025 NFL salary cap has yet to be determined, but we've heard that it's going to jump up to about $275 million, which will give the Raiders at least 85 to almost 100 million in cap space this season. So what do you want to add here to the Raiders mock of, Malachi?
Yeah, that's a strange one to me. If they can't trade up for Shedeur, I don't see why they would wait all the way until the 3rd round for a quarterback. That's kind of strange, but maybe the talent just isn't there this year.
See, that's kind of why I'm thinking that Russell Wilson, it could have an opportunity to match back up with Pete Carroll, even though I think they had a strained relationship when he was on his way out. It just kind of makes sense. Or Justin Fields. I mean, if they decide, the Steelers, to retain Wilson over Fields, Fields might be the odd man out because he wants to be a starter in this league. He's not going to be happy playing second fiddle. I think either one of those two options heading to the Raiders would be a good start. Obviously, Wilson is more of the bridge, whereas Fields could be an immediate answer. Be interesting to see what happens in Raiders country. Next up in free agency news, Levi Damien of the Raiders Wire says that Nick Shook, NFL media, put together a list of landing spots for Aaron Rodgers. Well, guess who made the list? Raiders, surprisingly, on this list. Now, a new regime, obviously, like we're talking about here, Pete Carroll and Spidek, and the influence of Tom Brady. They won their way out of a top 5 pick, which makes it unlikely that they draft one of the top quarterback prospects. But why not add Rodgers if even as a 1-year bridge? I don't even know if Brady and Rodgers get along, but that just seems like an odd duck of a situation to me. I'm almost considering the fact that possibly Rodgers has played his last down in the NFL. Now, if the Jets do release Aaron Rodgers, which is the speculation, then obviously the talk of the Raiders as a top landing spot could potentially come to fruition here. So not even minutes after the Jets officially announced that they were parting ways with Aaron Rodgers, the discussion really heated up about where he plays next, and that kicked into high gear with the Raiders. Here's a quote by Nick Shook where he says, "This pairing actually makes sense for a few reasons. Tom Brady's minority ownership seems to carry a ton of influence over the organization, and it wouldn't be a surprise if he pushed the Raiders to pursue fellow legend who, like Brady, needed a new home to finish out his career. The Raiders have a new regime led by Pete Carroll with zero connection to Aidan O'Connell, clearing a path for them to pursue a new signal caller. But because they won their way out of the top 5 pick, it's less certain that they'll land one in the draft than it was back in early December. Why not add a bridge if Rodgers, for 1 year stint, to protect against the situation they found themselves in last season. Sure, it'll attract attention, but the Raiders have never been a shy franchise. Plus, it'll likely go better than a one-year deal trial went with Matt Shaw back in 2014. Eric, what is your 2 cents on Rodgers here heading to Raider country?
Okay, so this reminds me of Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos, where they owed him a bunch of money and they cut him anyway. He was able to go to whatever team he wanted, sign for $1 million, and he still got paid $40 million from the Denver Broncos. So this exact same situation can still happen with the Jets. The Jets are going to owe him over $40 million this year. He is going to be able to just step away from football and make $40 million. Why would he go play for someone else? I don't know. But if he does, he could do a contract just like Russell Wilson did, do it for $1 million and go play, and he's still making over $40 million.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, I'm just wondering about the relationship status here between Rodgers and honestly the rest of the league. I think that this dude's kind of worn out his welcome. He's been playing for a long time. At some point, man, just hang it up, walk away. But a one-year bridge, I don't see Rodgers being the helpful type. I don't think he's the one that is going to coach up, anybody else, just like the issues between him and Jordan Love. He wasn't there to help Jordan Love. That's not his job. That's why there's quarterback coaches. That's kind of what Aaron said. Next up is Kansas City Chiefs, heading over to the Chiefs Kingdom here. The 2025 NFL mock draft, recently released by Josh Edwards of CBS Sports, has now mocked an offensive tackle, Kelvin Banks, out of Texas, to the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is after a trade with the Vikings. I would love to see the Vikings, get pushed down the list here. But KC tried 3 left tackles this past season before moving an all-pro guard, Joe Thuney, into that role. We saw how that worked for them in the Super Bowl. That left guard spot a pretty big concern for the Chiefs and really negatively impacted their ability to run the football. They could trade up to take Kelvin Banks to provide some help, and I'm all for it because I don't want to see the Vikings picking there. That's my biased take of the day, I guess. This makes a lot of sense to me. I think that you're going to want to protect old, Patty Mahomes, and I think that this makes a lot of sense that they try to move up to take one of the better offensive linemen in the draft this season. So before NFL teams really settle in to make roster improvements through the draft, they also have to first, execute plans in free agency. There will be teams that win and lose in the eyes of the general public, but a tangible on-field product will not be available really until fall. We just don't know what we're going to get until we see it live in a game. Thoughts on Chiefs adding offensive linemen with their first pick?
Yeah, I think it's a smart move for them. They're going to lose Smith, their guard, and a lot of the social media things I'm on, the Bears fans were clamoring for Smith to come to the Bears as a free agent. And after the Super Bowl, those Bears fans didn't want him anymore after that one game because he had such a poor game in the Super Bowl. So the Chiefs, I really believe that they do have to get that offensive line shored up.
Yeah, I do too. I think that this is a major concern, but I think that there's also some other major needs for the Chiefs. I am not out on them taking a tight end early in this draft, especially with the emergence of Kelsey more than likely going to retire. And even if he doesn't, this will probably be his final season in KC playing NFL football ever again. So I'm expecting the Chiefs to take a tight end in this draft. But here's 5 free agents that the Chiefs could target here with our final news here on the Kansas City Chiefs. And that is none other than offensive tackle Alaric Jackson. So Jackson may be exactly who the Chiefs need to fix the offensive issues from 2024. Certainly, they ripped the Band-Aid open in the Super Bowl, and, it was just a bloody mess. They got their asses kicked all day long. They clearly need an offensive tackle. Now, Jackson is a veteran with Super Bowl experience. He will be signing the former second-round pick. May not be a big splashy move, but it will provide the Chiefs with plenty of stability, at least from free agency to the draft where they can do more work. Second would be signing their own defensive tackle, Tershawn Wharton. This is a guy that has clearly grown in this system. He has really started to make big leaps and bounds over where he started. He is slated to be a free agent this season, and one of the many players the Chiefs obviously should consider to bring back. And then there's Chase Young. So defensive end or edge, Chase Young. This dude's just a mess. He's just bouncing all over the place in the league. He can't firm up a home because of his attitude. I mean, let's just be real here. His attitude gets in the way. Chase Young is not a fit, in my opinion, anywhere but a team like the Chiefs or any other team that is willing to take on the risky players like the 49ers do. I just don't see it as a workable situation for the Chiefs, but we'll see. We'll see what they do. And then Marquise Hollywood Brown, obviously, they're going to want to retain him. This is or was a very splashy offseason signing last season. Unfortunately, fans were robbed of seeing Brown for the most of the season. He was sidelined at the start of preseason with a shoulder injury and only made his return in December. So bringing back the speedy pass catcher is probably high on their list. And then lastly, defensive back Mike Hilton from the Bengals. So the holes in the Chiefs secondary really made themselves apparent with the injury to defensive back Jalen Watson. Steve Spagnuolo's defense struggled for much of the season after losing Watson, and they were unable to fill the void left in his absence. So final thoughts to you on Chiefs here and what they are expected to do here in free agency.
I think after all these years, the Chiefs are finally going to start to crumble a bit.
Is that your final take?
That's it. I think that they're not going to be I think they got a lot of help from the refs this year, and I think they are finally going to start to crumble. This 8-year reign of terror might be over.
And I would certainly agree. Matter of fact, prior to the season start, I didn't even see the Chiefs making the playoffs. And if it wasn't for the help of the Zebras, they probably wouldn't have made the playoffs. And we saw who they were and what they were in the Super Bowl because they kind of had an easy road through the playoffs this season as it was anyway with all the help that they were given. So if there's any team, when we did the segment earlier, if there's any team that is going to take a setback in 2025, it's the Chiefs. I don't even see them as a 10-win team here in 2025. And that's all for what is the Riley Road Report, provided to you today by myself, Will Rock. We'll see you in the next one. All right, Eric, we are back. And what is up for the first bit of Detroit Lions news? It is almost 9:40 a.m. It feels like we've been on all day, but, a half hour late. We're just now getting into the main segments of the day. So where would you like to start?
Sure. Let's start with a very polarizing figure here for the Detroit Lions and their fans, Kindle Vildor. All right. So the Detroit Lions have a free agent in Kindle Vildor. And should the Lions re-sign Kindle Vildor? That is the question for the day. Most fans didn't want him back for 2024. The Lions re-signed him. Kindle Vildor had a limited role in 2024 with only 2 starts on the season. So let's dive into his PFF grades for 2024 and see whether he is worth re-signing. He had 17 games with 2 starts, 244 defensive snaps, 221 special team snaps, 16 tackles, 3 passes defended. Not very much there. So PFF gave him a defensive grade overall of 46.7. And what do we always say with PFF grades? Where do we want people to be on average? 70 to 80-ish?
I'm sorry, as far as the overall PFF grade, or which portion are you talking about?
Like, where would you like to see a player in their PFF grades overall in like the 70 to 80 kind of grade?
I would say north of 70 for all players is a really good grade. Again, PFF is so highly skewed. You really have to watch tape. But I mean, yeah, if you were to look at at grades overall. I think that if you're a 70 or better, you are a very good second string player that potentially starts. Obviously, if you want elite players, you're looking at 80 and up. But the elite measurement in PFF starts at 90. So I would say 70 and up is like the threshold for me. But that's asking for a lot too, because it's hard to get there. But keep on going here.
Yeah. So his overall grade was 46.7, and that is 121st out of 128 qualifying cornerbacks.
That's a bad year.
That is at the bottom. And his PFF run grade was 56.3, and he was 94th out of 128 qualifying players. His tackling grade was absolutely awful, 42.8. So he was 103rd out of 128 players. His pass rush grade was 58.8, and that was 54th out of 128 qualifying players. His coverage grade was 45.0 and 121st out of 128 players. Now, his special teams grade was his highest grade overall, and that was 62.2, and he was 400th out of 697 qualifying players. So he was in the bottom third of qualifying players on special teams. And with a little help from injuries to other players, Vildor didn't only make the team, but he found himself as a part of the active roster for every single game this year. When Detroit turned to Vildor in training camp, he often worked with the first team and second team defenses and did not look out of place. But beyond that, he earned an elevated role on special teams, becoming one of the team's gunners alongside of Dorsey. Before 2024, Vildor only had a total of 276 special team snaps in his previous 4 seasons. He nearly matched that in 2024 with 221. So his outlook for 2025 is he is an unrestricted free agent. And I'm going to give you some pros of why we should re-sign Kindle Vildor. While Vildor has 68 games of NFL experience, he's just 27 years old. And even former defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn said he still sees growth from the 5-year veteran. So what do you think, Will? Should the Lions re-sign Kindle Vildor? So
I wanted Vildor back in 2024. And it was for none other than a rotational depth piece. That's it. I think that Vildor has, and I hate using Aaron Glenn as a crutch, but I think he has more of an opportunity to join the Jets than he does to stick with the Lions. I think that Aaron Glenn likes Kindle Vildor for whatever reason. Look, Vildor was a stopgap for us in 2022. Right? We needed somebody. We picked him up. We had injuries. We needed him. In 2020, I'm sorry, was that 22 or 23? In 2024, he was brought back as a depth piece. He had to earn his way. He had to earn his way back onto this team, right? He didn't even make the team, I don't believe, in 2024, right? He was brought in as a camp body, and then he was brought back as a practice squad player, correct?
Yeah.
Right. And then, even though he was on the squad for all 17 games in the regular season, his snaps, if I go back and look at his snaps here, he had 17 games. He started 2. He played in 244 snaps on defense and 221 on special teams. So a large part of what he did this season, he played in 48% of special team snaps, was, like you said, a gunner. He was utilized heavily in a special teams role. That makes sense to bring him back as a special teams guy that can be your 6th cornerback. But I would say this. I think they'll be able to find somebody better than Kindle Vildor that can play special teams. I don't doubt his ability to play the game. What I think happened to him is the games that he had to come in and play, this defense was decimated. And I said this the year before, that when you have a certain amount of injuries and you've got all these players trying to do the job of somebody else too, because they don't trust each other. When you have all these injuries, they lose trust. They lose confidence. They don't know what's going on around them. They can't trust what's going on around them. And you kind of get leaky eye syndrome, right? You're looking over here, you're looking over there, and the next thing you know, someone's blowing right by you. You can't do that. You got to stay locked in. And if you can't stay locked in, it's going to be a long day at the office. So I think for Kindle Vildor, he's yet another product of a bad defense due to injuries. And I think that that's almost ruining his career because he was not that style of player with the Chicago Bears. So bring him back as depth, let him fight it out in camp. It better be a cheap contract. That's as far as I'm going with Kindle. Otherwise, sayonara, see you later, goodbye. I just, the Lions can find better.
So as far as cost goes, last year the Lions signed Vildor to a $1.3 million contract for 1 year.
See, that's manageable.
Yep. And so they say this year he's due for a little bump after his 2024 contributions, and he's still probably in the range of about $2 million a year. What would you think about bringing Kindle Vildor back for $2 million?
I mean, it's manageable, right? I think it's a manageable deal. And when you look at the top 51 overall, that's, it'll probably be in the top 40 or top 44 of contracts at $2 million. You're still going to have 10, 12 contracts in there that are going to be probably league minimum in the top 51. So I would say that, it makes sense when you put a contract together that he's got to make the roster, to get a lot of his bonus money or guaranteed money. It has to be an incentive laden type of contract. That's the only way I'm bringing him back to fight it out in camp. But, this year he can hit the ground running with a team that is healthy again. Just has to stay healthy. I'm not out on the Lions grabbing a corner in this draft. I think that they just might. And we'll get more into that when I drop the mock draft. But Kindle Vildor, look, I was high on him coming back because he was going to be a cheap piece for us. And the Lions were still in that rebuild phase. And until we could settle, and bring in some guys through the draft that can help shape this team, you need to bring guys back that have experience in your system, because I think experience in your system outweighs any ability on the field. If you know the system and you're a mid player, well, now you're not really a mid player in a system that You're a better than average player because you know what to do, where to be, how to play. But when you're up against it with all these injuries, man, he's just going to have a rough time. And I think that's why a lot of Lions fans have turned their backs on Vildor. And it started with the NFC Championship game of 2023. Was that your final take there in Kindle?
Yep. So as far as Vindel goes, I just want to see what we do in the draft and free agency as far as cornerback, but I have no problem bringing back a veteran that can help teach the other guys. And if he makes the team, great. If he doesn't, that's great also. But for training camp and OTAs, if we can have them around to help teach the young bucks, all the better.
Yeah, I would agree. So there was another interesting, sticking with Detroit Lions news, there was another interesting piece about Michael Vick and what he had said about Jared Goff. But before I get to that piece, let's talk about the coach and the news that kind of broke the internet for us last night. Tashard Choice. So Detroit Lions have went ahead and added another coach to this roster. Now they moved Scotty Montgomery to wide receivers coach. And this move, I think, was perfect for the Lions. Not only are they reuniting him with Jahmyr Gibbs, but this is a guy that knows running backs. He's also the former Cowboys running back, Mr. Tashard Choice. And he was interviewed to be the Cowboys' new running backs coach, but he didn't get the job. And I'm wondering why. But he got a better one, right? He got a better one. And that is with the Detroit Lions, who clearly have one of the best backfields in the league when you're talking about running backs. Now, Matt Zenitz of CBS Sports reported that the Lions were expected to hire Choice, but that is a done deal now. He will be the next running backs coach for the Lions here in 2025. And while coaching the running backs at Georgia Tech from 20 to 2021, he did work with Jahmyr Gibbs, so he knows who this player is. Now, Clarence Hill of alldlls.com, I've never heard of that site before, previously noted that Choice made $700,000 in 2024 with a bump to $750,000 in 2025. Presumably, the Lions will be beating that number. I can't imagine any coach in the NFL not making $1 million or more. I just would have never thought that all of these assistants, they're probably making, probably high 3s, 4s. But, to have a running backs coach this good, former player, I can't imagine these guys aren't making more than $1 million. But clearly, he was only making $700K in 24. Lions are probably paying him $1 million or more, but we may or may not ever find out. Now, Scotty Montgomery, he's serving as the assistant head coach, running backs coach with the Lions, and he'll be shifting to the wide receivers coach. Montgomery spent 3 years with the Steelers in that role from 2010 to 2012. I'm interested to see what the Steelers did. I didn't go back and look at what the Steelers' production was from 2010 to 2012, but I'll do that live right now while you're giving us your take on this move.
I think it's excellent. You're pairing him up with someone that worked with Bijan Robinson. He worked with Jahmyr Gibbs previously, and Gibbs tore it up in college. So did Bijan Robinson. And he worked at Texas. He was in a big system. I don't think this is above him, especially being a former NFL running back. I think that this is a match made in heaven. And the reason that he didn't take the Cowboys job is maybe he knew that the Lions job was on the table.
Yeah, it could have been. Could have been. Jay Cruz and I just sent a message in there. I have no idea what you're talking about, but please elaborate. I haven't seen anything happen today, so anyway, let's go back and look here. Pro Football Reference. We're going to look at 2010 for the Steelers. Passing. Let's see. Antoine Randall L was on that squad.
Is that when Scotty Montgomery was the wide receiver coach?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is when Scotty Montgomery was wide receivers coach. All right, let me get to passing here. Sometimes Pro Football Reference is just a mess. But anyway, Ben Roethlisberger was the quarterback. He played 12 games. He was injured. Charlie Batch then came in for 3 games, and then Dennis Dixon came in for 2 games. Byron Leftwich was dressed for a game, and Antoine Randall L, as a wide receiver, was dressed for all 16 games. So I'm not sure why they put him in as a quarterback, but probably because he threw a couple of passes. He did. He threw 2. All right. Ben Roethlisberger had 3,200 yards. Charlie Batch, 352 in 2 games. Dennis Dixon had 254. Overall, 3,601 yards, 22 TDs on the year. Their success rate was 46.2%. Quarterback rating of 95.2. Passer rating, 95.2. Yards a catch, 13.1. That's pretty decent. Let's see here. Where's the yak at? So, it's not a terrible year in 2010, but I don't know if we can use 2010 because their main quarterback was injured. Ben Roethlisberger. So let's jump to 2011. Ben Roethlisberger played 15 games, 15 started. And much better year. 4,077 yards, only 21 TDs. And a 63.2% completion percentage. 90.1 overall rate. 68.3 QBR. That's not terrible. Ben took a lot of sacks that year. 40 sacks. My goodness. Let's take a look at the receivers here. Oh, I hate doing stuff live like this. I like having it prepared, but here we go. Receptions. Mike Wallace had 72 for 1193. Antonio Brown had 69 for 1108. Heath Miller, tight end, had 51 for 631. Hines Ward had a down year. Maybe he didn't play the whole season. He was maybe on the outs of his career, but 46 for 381. And Emmanuel Sanders, he had 22 for 288. So, I mean, not terrible, right? Not a terrible season. And let's go to 12. So this will be the last year for Scotty Montgomery. And when we look at Ben Roethlisberger, a down year, but he only played 13 games. He was injured again. So only 30, but just under 3,800 yards for that season. Again, I don't think that we can give them a fair shake when your quarterback's injured. But Heath Miller, he was their leading receiver as a tight end. He had 71 for 816. Antonio Brown was 66 for 787. Mike Wallace, 64 for 836. Emmanuel Sanders, 44 for 626. So what that tells me is equal spreading the ball out, right? I mean, they have multiple targets. They're all getting, receptions. That's pretty hard to do, to have four guys, very, very close in numbers. You had three guys that were within 7 catches of each other. It's and targets too. I mean, the targets are very equal. So pretty solid. I mean, I can't really make a determination on any of that. You know what I mean? But at least we know what they did as far as when he was there. So, all right. Anything you want to add to that before
I just like the fact that Scotty Montgomery has experience at being a wide receivers coach before, and he was really tight with Antoine Randall, who left to go with Ben Johnson there in Chicago. So I have no problem with him. And the other new coach is going to be awesome for our running game.
So last bit of news today that we'll roll through, and then we'll get back at it tomorrow. I'm not going to go over today because I am going to try to get on tonight. Michael Vick. So he had a very interesting statement on Jared Goff. So before, I've got a question for you guys in the chat and comments. I've been sucking asking questions. I really did it in my video last night with Trey. I'm going to continue to try to ask questions to get you guys involved in the chat and in the comments. But what do you think Michael Vick had to say about Jared Goff? Do you think it was about the broken giraffe legs? Do you think that he thinks that, maybe Jared Goff is the next dual threat quarterback in the NFL? What do you think, Eric?
They do call him Vanilla Vic.
Well, I can tell you this. It definitely wasn't about his speed.
I was saving that one.
Okay. Definitely wasn't about his speed.
What?
But Michael Vick referred to Jared Goff as a football savant, which is an interesting term, and that he'll be okay without Ben Johnson. So Vick obviously is now an analyst with Fox Sports and a newly named head coach at Norfolk State. He played 13 NFL seasons. 4 teams, had the best year of his career after head coach and coordinator changes happened in Atlanta. And that was in 2004. Now, to follow up what he said, essentially saying that, my best year happened when we had a major change. I said it the other day that sometimes when these changes happen, now, of course, we want continuity as long as possible. But usually what happens is the more you continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, teams start to figure you out. So this gives us a fresh look, right? It gives us a fresh set of eyes, and it gives us a fresh opportunity to do something different on the football field. But Jimmy Johnson, Fox analyst, obviously former Cowboys coach, 2-time Super Bowl winning coach with the Cowboys, said this, quote, "Anytime you change coaches, there's going to be some changes and some things to overcome. But I think Goff has been in this league long enough that he's going to know what he does well and what he doesn't do well. And so I'm sure that the new coordinator will adjust to that." He goes on to say that he goes to Detroit. He takes them to, I think, the NFC Championship game last year. He knew that. And just a ton of success. So he's shown that he's versatile. He can work with multiple coordinators, and he's probably a big part of that as well. Just making suggestions and being a mental stipend for the team as well from a quarterback perspective. Now, I don't think that, we would do any service here by forgetting that Morton collaborated with Johnson to design the offense that the Lions have been running the past 3 seasons. He was a senior offensive assistant with the team in 2022. So Morton knows this offense. He knows this team. He's clearly seen what we've been able to do from afar. And I think that this was a good statement by Michael Vick that, in fact, Jared Goff is a football savant. So Michael Vick said that he knows what he's doing. Essentially that he knows what he's doing. Don't worry about Jared Goff. He's going to put this team on his shoulders and continue to do the things that he has been doing. But here's Michael Vick's quote. He says, I think Jared Goff will overcome. Being with Sean McVay, he showed that he can take it to the next level, and he did. He played in the Super Bowl, and then it's just a complete change of scenery, abrupt change in his career. And then this is where he said, he goes to Detroit. He takes them to, I think, the NFC Championship game last year and just a ton of success, yada, yada, yada. So he spoke with David Burkett in this illustration of Jared Goff being a football savant. And I agree. I don't think Jared Goff's going to falter at all. If anything, this will probably elevate his career even more. Eric, what's your thoughts?
Jared Goff is one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league, and I don't care what anybody says. He's got 4.82 demon speed. The guy can run. I just don't know why he falls over every time he tries. Listen, Goff has been my favorite player since he's got here, and I think it's all due to this up here, not with his legs or any of that kind of stuff. He is so cerebral, and this offense has been built for him. And I think Michael Vick is spot on with everything that he said.
So I think you're definitely right about one thing here, or a lot of things. But in this case, it's all about the mental. I've been saying this for a little bit too, that at some point, when you gravitate to the NFL, you get through the first couple of seasons, it is not so much about your gifted ability. It is more so about your brain, right? In the mental. Are you able to handle the stress? Are you able to study? Are you able to adapt and change? Are you coachable, right? Are you likable? All of those things matter, but on the field, you have to be a visionary. You have to see it all happening. And that takes a really good mental aspect of your game to be able to put all of those things that you learned off the field now on the field. So I just saw someone in the chat, and I didn't see who said it. They just don't like Jared Goff's, was it arm speed? Oh, Goff is smart. I just don't like his arm strength. So let me shock you with something, and then I'm going to finish with a text thread from this morning. The NFL Combine record for the fastest throw is 62 miles an hour, held by Josh Allen. In a debut, Milton, I'm not sure what his first name, Milton. Why does that name seem familiar?
Milton was the QB from last year.
Yeah, so he was at 61.7 miles per hour. Let's see, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Dorian Thompson-Robinson have also thrown the balls ranging from 59 to 62 miles per hour. And there was a test that was done of ball velocity between 2008 and 2023. So let me go back to see. Goff was drafted in what, 16, 17? When was Goff drafted? 16. Okay. I'll put this in the chat too, so you guys can, see that I'm not full of shit. Where do you think, if you don't like Goff's speed, where do you think his speed is? And I'll say, let's say the floor is 54 miles per hour. And obviously we know the ceiling is 62 miles per hour. Where do you think Goff's velocity is? Eric, what do you think?
59.5.
In the chat, in the comments later, what do you think? Between 55 and 62. You can say whatever number you want.
17 from Mr.
17. All right. I will say this. Don't look, don't Google. But if you get it right, I might ship you a hat. You get one answer, and we've got 30 seconds, and I want to see how many people put it in. Just put the number. Any number. And I'm going to say the floor is 55, the ceiling is 62, but you can put whatever number you want in. I'm going to put some drops in my eyes because they are on fire while you guys are doing that.
And we're getting some good guesses. Mr. Thomas says 57. Christy Bruin says 61. Then Mr. Thomas says 57 again. Mike P.
You only get one. You only get one vote.
Well, you said it twice. Same thing. Mike P says 60. RP says 55. Computer Joe says 21. So that's I can tell you, Computer Joe, you did not win. Randy Stevens at 58.5. Denzel Vance at 59. Trace
right,
at 61.
Hold on. So the question is this, J-Rod. People are questioning Jared Goff's arm talent and arm speed. So the question is, how fast do you think he throws the football? And right now the record is 62 miles per hour by Josh Allen. And I'm going to say the floor here. I'll do the floor. 45 miles per hour is the floor. And you won't even believe who threw the ball 45 miles per hour. So go from 45 to 62. Where do you think Goff throws the football?
Jay Cruisen says 71 miles.
Of course you would, Cruisen.
Oh, and I figured out that the mystery with Jay Cruisen earlier. It was somebody that was deleting their comments. They retracted their comments. That's why it disappeared.
Oh, yeah. And I can't do anything about what YouTube. I have blocked words in YouTube. Like I finally blocked the F word. So if you say the F word, it will not post your post. And it's not about First Amendment rights or anything like that. It's just sponsors, and I'm trying to keep things clean. Otherwise, the chat's going to disappear when we upload. All right, I'll give you 30 more seconds. And if we don't get the right answer, I'm just going to tell you what it is.
All right. We got 61, 59, 55, 62, 59. A lot of 59s. I guessed 59.5.
That's best you can do.
All right, 10 seconds. I know we've got a little bit of a lag today because I had to change some settings, but I wanted captions up. I don't even know if captions are working.
Well, Mike P said 60. Christy said 61. And
all right, 5 seconds.
Denzel said 62. So I think we've covered just about every number.
3, 2, 1. Voting is done. Okay, now I'm going to blow your minds. And nobody got it right, by the way. The closest was Jay Cruisen on his I don't know, 5th or 4th guess. But yeah, here's the answer. Okay, and I'm gonna start with 2020. Let's see, 2023. Let's see, who was the best quarterback in 23? Oh, how about CJ Stroud? Okay. CJ Stroud threw the ball 56 miles per hour. 56. Now, I don't know how they did left and right, but 56 miles per hour was his time. Anthony Richardson, 54 miles per hour. Will Levis, 53 miles per hour. How about Hendon Hooker? He did not throw, obviously. Bryce Young, he did not throw either. Stetson Bennett, 58 miles per hour. Okay, let's move on to 22. Malik Willis, 58 miles per hour. Sam Howell, 56. Bailey Zapp, 54. Brock Purdy, 52. So 2020. Let's see who was in 2020. Oh, how about Justin Herbert? 55 miles per hour. Jordan Love, 54 miles per hour. Jake Fromm, who's on our practice squad, 53 miles per hour. Anybody else? Oh, Joe Burrow did not throw. Tua Tagovailoa did not throw. 2019, we're getting closer.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting closer. Gardner Minshew, 55. Brett Ripien from Boise State, 59. I don't really see anybody else in this. 2018, Josh Allen, 62 miles per hour. Baker Mayfield, 59. Best throw was 60. Let's see who else is on that list. JT Barrett, 52 miles per hour. That's about par for the course for an Ohio State quarterback. How about Lamar Jackson? This can't be right. It can't be right. 49 miles per hour? That one can't be right. What happened there?
Who's that for?
That was for Lamar Jackson.
Oh, geez.
Now this one's gonna blow your mind. Patrick Mahomes, your Super Bowl darling. 55 miles per hour.
Wow.
55. So, I mean, he's like in the second to third tier of quarterbacks. Anything above 60 is first tier. I'd say anything between 57 and 60 is probably second tier. And then 52 to 50, I guess 6 or so, or 55 would be like third tier, if I'm making sense. I forgot my tiers already.
Mm-hmm.
How about Jared Goff? 58 miles per hour.
Wow.
So not only is he in the second upper tier, he throws faster than Lamar Jackson. He throws faster than Patrick Mahomes. He's 1 mile behind Baker Mayfield. He throws harder than Justin Herbert, Jordan Love. So go get your plate of crow. Told you the dude had a great arm. And I've known these stats. I follow these stats. That's why I keep stuff like this. So they do this every year at the combine. When they do ball velocity at the NFL combine and quarterbacks get their opportunity to throw, they test it. They utilize radar guns in miles per hour. And they've been tracking it since 2008. Jared Goff is in the upper tier of ball speed. And I've been telling everybody this. So when people say he can't throw J-Mo open, yes, he can. It takes communication.
How many balls did J-Mo run the wrong route or stop on a route or just not run fast enough and the ball went way over his head?
Exactly. So he has good deep ball strength. He has good short ball strength. Here's the difference with Jared Goff. When you're tall and lanky, obviously your wind up and your release can be a little bit slower, right? He's got real long arms, tall frame. He's not short and compact like a Patrick Mahomes. So the difference is this. When you're shorter and compact, your arm angles can be a little bit tighter, right? You can get the ball up and out a lot quicker. Jared, he's winding up, to get that ball out. But you know what a trebuchet is, right, Eric?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Jared Goff's arm is like a trebuchet. The longer your rope is, or the longer your log is to, throw that cannonball, it's the same principle. The longer your arm is and the more wind up you have, the longer you can throw it. I'm watching, my son, who I told my older son, Jade, that's why I said, don't pick on Christian because he's smaller. I said, just wait until he gets a little bit older. I can see this. He's going to grow. He's going to be bigger than you. Well, guess what? He is bigger than you. He's actually probably taller than me now. And Jade could hum the ball like baseball. He could hum it, man. Christian right now, possibly going to be playing college ball, and he's really grown into a hell of a pitcher. And it's because of his longer arm and his big, long, strong legs that he's able to throw the ball faster. It's all about technique, but you also have to have a little bit of physical gifts. Now, Jared Goff is not blessed with, a 6-pack, and he's not extremely heavy, but he's got the right tools, and he has the right twitch, and it's all about his head. Tom Brady wasn't a physical specimen either, but he could whip the ball when he needed to. So don't discount Jared Goff. I hope that when, I provide these stats to you guys, that you take it to heart, and then go spread it to somebody else and say, you know what I heard on the Rockhound Detroitlions show, the Rise and Grind morning show? I heard that Jared Goff actually has an elite arm. And here's why. They actually did the ball speed calculations at the combine. I had no idea. But they shared it with me. Here's the truth. He's only 4 miles behind Josh Allen. And he's 3 miles ahead of Patrick Mahomes. Who would have thought? This is why I've never discounted Jared Goff, man. Dude's a hell of a quarterback. He just gets a lot of flack. All right, what do you want to wrap it up with today?
I saw a chart somewhere where it showed who had the best passing percentages in each section of the field, from long to middle to short, and then behind the line of scrimmage in the entire NFL. And 4 of the sections, Jared Goff had the best pass percentage of anyone in those. And one of them was deep to the left.
Makes sense.
So anybody that says that Jared Goff can't throw the deep ball, I would tell you to go look and see exactly what he does with the deep ball. And remember those big, long throws that he did get to J-Mo, and a couple that he did get to St. Brown that went for some really long yardage. He can do it. Not every single time, but he's one of the best at doing it long to the left, if I remember correctly from looking at that chart.
Are you still talking about quarterbacks throwing the ball long to the left? I'm sorry. What are you talking about now?
Yeah, with Jared Goff. There was a chart that came out like a week ago.
I'm just messing with you, dude.
Who had the best percentages.
All right. So let me expand upon that a little bit. There is a chart. Let's see if I can find it quickly.
I have it on my phone somewhere.
Well, no, there's a different chart. And it talks about, most completed passes, 10, 20, 30, 40 yards. Shoot. I don't know if I have the chart handy. Poop. I don't.
I found this chart. So
what does it say? Right. Does it give you the accuracy and how many times they threw and completed over 10, 20, 30, 40?
No, but this has 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and then to the left hash, in between the hashes, to the right hash, and then to the right sidelines.
Who is it? Which chart is it?
So this is the 33rd team.
Okay.
And so that's
a reputable one.
Yep. EPA drop back 2024 regular and postseason. Jared Goff to the right deep from 30 to 50 yards was the best passer in the NFL. And then in the middle and to the left was Joe Burrow. And then Goff was also the best to the left between the line of scrimmage and 10 yards. And then in the middle of the whole entire field, between the left hash and right hash, and in the center behind the line of scrimmage, Goff was number 1 as well. So he had 3 different areas of the field that he was the best in the entire NFL. And no other quarterback had 3, I don't think. 3 different positions.
Yeah. Look, I'm not saying that Jared Goff's a perfect quarterback. He's not. He has his deficiencies too. He absolutely does. And yeah, it's no secret that I think he does require more of a pocket. And that's the game of football. There's a reason why there's a term called the pocket. You want to keep the pocket clean. And if you have a good enough offensive line, you can do that. And that is why the game, and I know Mike P could back me up on this all day, the game starts in the trenches. And hopefully when we have a guest that is going to be coming on maybe next week, he's a coach in California, Reached out to him. Riley reached out to him this week. We're going to hopefully be bringing him in, and hopefully when he hears this or listens to this later, I would love to get a weekly, bi-weekly segment on, just position by position and what makes sense and why certain things work. And, like I said, I've forgotten a lot of terminology and I've forgotten, a lot of things over time. That's why I'm going to scouting school and I'm going to have fun with it. It's like a 16-week class or whatever. So that I can get to the next level, right? I want to get to the next level. And matter of fact, as soon as spring hits, I'll be traveling to some local colleges and spending the day with a lot of different college football programs on the sideline and doing independent work. They've gracefully, and I'm sorry, not gracefully, that's the wrong word. Thankfully, they're allowing me to do this. So, and maybe it turns into something more, but at the end of the day, I want to learn more and I want to know more, but that's why we study stats, analytics, and we go deeper. I'm not just going to read an article and take it on the face value. I don't read news. I don't even watch news. I go find my own. If I hear of a topic, I research. I don't just find the first article and say, oh, that must be true because it's on the internet. No way. And anything you find on Twitter or anywhere else, it most likely fake. So study stats, man. Get into the real stats or just join us every morning from 8 to 10 a.m., sometimes longer. Sometimes we're late. Sometimes we have issues with internet and things, but it's been far and few between that we have issues. And the more graphics I do, the more issues we're going to have. So appreciate everyone joining today. We've got a lot more to talk about next week, and it's going to get more heavy draft, free agency centric as we get closer to both of those, specific dates in March and April. My first mock is going to drop this weekend. I will do it live, and we'll see how crucified I get. So you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you. You are the best part of Rockhound Detroit Lions, Rise and Grind Morning Show, and Off the Cuff Podcast will be on tonight. Appreciate it. Eric, good as always, man. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah. See you guys.
All right. Take care. Go on Pride. Go Detroit Lions. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Rockhound Detroit